Bad news for you guys in Canada. When I say bad news, I mean if you want to buy a new car, then you got to miss out on Geely, Volvo, Zeekr, Xpeng, so many manufacturers, BYD. They make some really great cars. You guys, well, you won't have to buy one. This is just essentially your government saying to you, you are barred from buying any Chinese branded car. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. This is very disappointing for a lot of people. Now, speaking of disappointing, I mean, for me personally, I understand where Canada and the United States are coming from, but it will be really difficult for so many people. They're going to miss out. They're going to miss out on affordable cars. Really, Tesla prices will go up as well because now Tesla will have to send cars from California or from Texas to Canada. That will increase the price because those cars are much more expensive to manufacture in the United States than they are for Tesla in China. What is going on here? Well, I mean, clearly the US government has discussed this matter with Canada and their government as well. Canada has followed the US in putting a 100% tax or import tariff to protect North American manufacturing. So 100% tax, that is enormous. All electric cars are imported from China, including Teslas, will be hit with these new tariffs starting on the 1st of October this year. So, I mean, that's so close. It's just over a month away. That includes Tesla's EVs, BYD, anything coming from China will get this tax. Reuters says more than 44,000 cars were exported from China to Vancouver in 2023, which was growth of 460% year over year. A lot of that was driven by Tesla vehicles, predominantly Teslas. But BYD have been trying to really get a foothold in Canada. They've been planning on selling a lot of cars there, a lot of different models. And now BYD, well, I'm really not sure what BYD will do now. It's going to be certainly a big challenge for them. US President Joe Biden in May announced, I believe, possibly from pressure from Donald Trump, that the US would tax Chinese imported electric cars, and that includes Teslas, with a 102.5% tariff. And they also increased tariffs on lithium-ion EV batteries from 7.5% to 25%. That's a big challenge for most manufacturers because, I mean, Tesla's most affordable batteries, their lithium iron phosphate batteries in their standard range vehicles, they use CATL, LFP batteries or lithium iron phosphate batteries from CATL, who are in China. They're the biggest battery company in the world. But apparently Tesla, Ford, and maybe even General Motors, they are planning on building mega battery factories in the US where they will manufacture CATL's lithium iron phosphate batteries, either their Shenzhen battery or the Chilean 2.0 battery. Both of them have very high energy density. The Shenzhen Plus energy density is the highest in the world at 205 watt hours per kilogram. Those are the batteries that Ford wants to put in their new EVs. They're saying in 2026, they're delaying their EVs till 2026 or 2027 until they can manufacture those batteries in America, which have high enough energy density and are affordable enough under all these requirements and will qualify for EV incentives. That's what Ford says that they need to really make EVs work in America. In comments echoed by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Mr. Biden said American workers can outwork and outcompete anyone as long as the competition is fair, but for far too long it hasn't been fair. Now, the truth is, guys, that American factories will be predominantly staffed by robots within the next 10 years. If you believe otherwise, then you've been brainwashed by the UAW. The UAW, the President Shawn Fain, is really in it for himself. He couldn't care less about any of his workers. The truth is, guys, that labor jobs in automotive factories will be very quickly replaced by robots. They already are. For years, the Chinese government has poured state money into Chinese companies, said Biden, across a wide range of industries: steel and aluminium, semiconductors, the US does that as well, electric vehicles, the US does that as well, solar panels, the US does that as well, the industries of the future, and even critical health equipment like gloves and masks. We're not going to let China flood our market, making it impossible for American automakers to compete fairly. Keep in mind, I think a lot of the reasons that Chinese products can be very cheap is because the Chinese automakers are willing to sell at a huge loss until they get market share. Most Western companies aren't willing to do that. The Polestar 2 is the only China-made electric car sold in America. It'll be followed by the Lotus EVs, which are built in Wuhan by Geely. The reason that can happen is because Volvo, the Geely parent company, they send some American-made vehicles to China. So it's like a one-for-one swap where that makes this whole tariff thing reduced to zero. Tesla builds cars in the US for US buyers, but they actually send Tesla vehicles from China, made in China, to Canada. And obviously that's now being banned. Polestar are going to build the 3 and the Volvo EX90 that will be made. Both of those will be made in the same factory in South Carolina. So that's one way that Geely or these Chinese manufacturers can get around some of these tariffs. Canada. Well, yeah. Ford, Stellantis, and General Motors all have 3 manufacturing plants in Canada. Honda and Toyota have 1 plant, and obviously these manufacturers have been lobbying the Canadian government, of course, and the US government, but the Canadian government particularly recently, to try and basically block any competition. And this, unfortunately, will slow down the development of electric cars in Canada, because to be honest, none of those manufacturers really care about EVs. Let's be frank here. Does Ford, Stellantis, or General Motors, Honda or Toyota, or any of them really that invested in electric cars? Not really. So that means, stop any possible competition, and therefore those companies don't need to take electrification seriously because there's no one anyway. There's no one rivaling them. There's no disruption happening. Chinese brands haven't ruled out taking on the US market by doing things like what BYD are planning. BYD are opening a manufacturing facility in Mexico that will allow them potentially to get around these tariffs and ship those cars from Mexico to the US and Canada. But I think the USA might end up banning those anyway. Basically the US is saying we don't want this happening to Mexico. They're saying, Mexico, if you allow this happen to BYD to do this, there's going to be problems. That's what I've been hearing. The USA and Canada aren't obviously alone in this. They're not the only companies operating with this level of protectionism. Europe is doing the same thing, but the tariffs on Europe are very different. The tariffs, essentially the total tariff Tesla pays now on its vehicles from China, selling its cars made in China to Europe, is around about 19%. BYD's is about 28%. Geely's is about 30%. MG's is about 46%. Now, those tariffs obviously are not insignificant. They're pretty big, but they're nothing in comparison to these US and Canadian tariffs. In June, the European Commission announced it would impose tariffs on all these different manufacturers, and essentially companies like, I believe, NIO, who haven't complied with European Union authorities, they will have to pay the highest tariff, until the US Union investigates NIO, sees what incentives they're getting from the Chinese government, and decides whether or not what percentage they should what percentage they should tax them with. Tesla builds, of course, European-made Model 3s in China. So they initially got a larger tax, which is around 30% in total, 20% plus the 10% already in place, but that's been reduced now to about 19% in total. So 9% plus the existing 10%. So a 19% import tax for the Model 3. And that's not too bad for Tesla. They were paying 10%. It's gone from 10% to 19%. Tesla will probably increase its prices a little bit, but not enormously. A lot of protectionism going on. So what do we got now? We've got basically the United States, Canada, the European Union, all very, very fearful of Chinese products, Chinese electric cars. And obviously, they don't want to lose their automotive industry. So you can understand what they're doing, but it does kind of suck for consumers. Here in Australia, we have so many different Chinese cars we can buy, but within the next 12 to 24 months, 1 to 2 years, the number of EVs we have here is going to be it's probably going to triple, at least triple. I've done a video on 53 new cars coming next year, 53 new models. They're all Chinese. Some of them are just unbelievable. The technology in there is incredible. You can see why the United States and Canada and Europe don't want to compete, because they don't have that technology yet, not even close. Is there any models of cars come from any manufacturer that is legacy auto that has the ability to charge at 600 kilowatt? Nothing even close to that. Let me know your thoughts on this. Is this a good move from Canada? Do you agree with these tariffs? Does this mean, are you disappointed now you won't be able to buy any of these new EVs from Chinese manufacturers, or is this a good thing? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.